Hi everyone, I'm Kristen, the Cross Stitching Runner, and welcome to another episode of my Flosstube channel. So I want to also say a big hello and welcome to all returning viewers and welcome to all new subscribers between now and the last time we caught up. In my last episode, I mentioned that I'd give everyone a bit of a tour of the Hot Cross Stitching website because I'd experienced a lot of technical issues in the background that I wanted to get fixed up, and as a way of celebrating the changes that I've made to the website in the background and all the rest. I just wanted to share with you the website and some of the things that I've been doing, especially from the, I guess, cross-stitch pattern side of things. So what we're seeing at the moment is the landing page or the home page for the website, and when you first come across the site, it talks a lot about I guess learning how to cross stitch and teaching classes and such. That is something that I'm still working on getting set up, and the aim with the class is that we'll be focusing on beginners and intermediate skill levels. And at the moment, I'm working on getting Zoom to be set up and figuring out locations connected with physical spaces and that. I am based in Canberra, Australia, and right at this very moment we do have a lockdown situation where all non-essential services and businesses and such are locked down. We aren't able to function, or we can function, but we can't go to beauty salons and all that fun stuff. So this is where I'm very much focusing at the moment on the cross stitch patterns. So if by chance you need to contact me in any way, shape or form, you'll see that we've got an email address, and I'm also on Instagram. So I'm just going to scroll back up to the top, and I want to focus on the cross stitch patterns. So with the cross stitch patterns, this site is organised with the most recent information or most recent patterns that are available, right through to the older patterns that are available on the site. So right at the bottom here we are seeing some patterns such as the yellow cogs and the Dewdrop Daisy. If you've been with me for a little while, you will have seen the progress I've been making with the Dewdrop Daisy cross stitch pattern. The yellow cogs and Dewdrop Daisy both are full coverage cross stitch patterns, and both are based upon photos that I've taken either at my home or out at my parents' place, parents' farm out at Gundaroo, which is about a 45-minute drive from where I live. Or if you're familiar with Sydney and its location in Australia, Canberra is about a 3-hour drive, maybe 2.5-hour drive south of Sydney, depending on traffic. I'd be inclined to lean towards the 3-hour mark because Sydney's traffic isn't always the most pleasant to deal with. So these cross stitch patterns that we're now seeing, the black and white rolled up daisy, autumn ivy on the wall, and the Gundaroo mini mushrooms cross stitch patterns. These three are also full coverage, and also especially if you've been with me for a while, you will have seen me talk a little bit about the mini mushrooms, or the Gundaroo mini mushrooms pattern here, and you'll have also seen me talk a bit about the black and white rolled up daisy as well, because I've been stitching on both projects. Both of them are full coverage, and the autumn ivy on the wall, that's also a full coverage cross stitch pattern. Though I also want to point out that with a lot of these cross-stitch patterns, if you're so inclined, you can actually adjust them in a way that if you just want to focus on the flower or the cogs or the leaves or whatever the key feature is of the pattern, then especially with, say, the black and white rolled up daisy and autumn ivy on the wall, you could stitch those projects on black fabric that you're comfortable with, and that way it can really make those key features of the patterns really pop. So we've also, I'll just come up a little bit more to the next row. So we've got the Pink Bottle Brush Mini, we've got Blue Mountains Walking Trail and Male Cheetah. So one of the things I want to point out with this row of cross-stitch patterns is with the picture for the Pink Bottle Brush Mini, that picture is looking a little bit different compared to some of the other pictures we're seeing on the site, because this is actually a mock-up of what this project will look like when it's stitched, rather than it being the original photo that it was converted from. So this photo is of, I'm nicknaming it Pink Bottle Brush, but I think it's in true gardening worlds or gardening groups, it's a grevillea. I've talked a little bit about this project, and I've called it a mini project because it's not a full coverage project, which is where I'm recommending that it be stitched on black fabric. At the moment I'm stitching it on 14 count Aida, and this is just to make the colours really pop. And you can see that I've tried to go around the areas of the petals where, just to try and help you all with not having to stitch as much. So with the other two projects, in terms of the Blue Mountains Walking Trail and Male Cheetah, both of them are full coverage as well, and you can definitely choose, like especially with the Male Cheetah, that for the background of it you could even get away with stitching it half stitch rather than full crosses, and that way you can really help with drawing the focus on the cheetah. This guy, the male cheetah, he's actually living at the Canberra Zoo, or it's also the Canberra Zoo and Aquarium, which is out near Scrivener Dam, and those guys do live a nice life. And I actually got to stay at the zoo overnight. There's a place within the zoo called the Jamala Wildlife Lodge, and it's definitely a great place to stay overnight. You get to choose whether you want to spend a night with the lions or the tigers, the bears or the giraffe. You definitely have a very nice time. So just scrolling up just a little bit more, we've got a little bit more of a variety here that's not strictly full coverage. So this first pattern I want to talk about is called Flosstube Made Me Do It. And if anyone who's watching this this episode, and you've definitely been watching other Flosstube channels, that you may have found that you have been enabled by other floss tubers, where they may share with you a pattern or a project that they are currently stitching on or working on, or that they may have purchased as part of their haul. And you may hear some floss tubers say that they've been enabled by whoever they've been watching, and I wanted to pay homage to that, and that's why I created this this phrase called Flosstube Made Me Do It. It made me go and purchase a cross stitch pattern. It made me go and buy a variety of floss or fabric or whatever it might be, whatever tools I might need or need to add to my collection. That's the reason behind that pattern, and it's designed in a way that you can choose whatever colors you want for the font that you see there, and in the pattern it's all black. It's just the chosen color, but as you'll see in this particular picture for the model, I chose to stitch the word made in red. It's all in DMC floss, and if you have any specialty threads or anything in your collection, then this is where you can really make the most of those specialty threads and or over dyed threads, whatever you want to call them, and yeah, really enhance that project. So this one is one of the few projects or patterns that aren't full coverage, and which is why you'll see that it's not as expensive or not as expensive as some of the others that you see on the site here. For the other two pictures we see in this row, Lily and Braidwood Cottage number 2, these two are definitely based on photos that I've taken. And the Braidwood Cottage, Braidwood is a historical township that is about an hour's drive east of Canberra as you head towards the south coast. A lot of Canberrans are very familiar with Braidwood, as it's like a halfway point for many people to get out, stretch the legs, buy a cup of coffee or whatever it is that tickles your fancy. They also have a bakery there, and many people like stopping off there to grab a bite to eat. And it's a historical town because I think by memory it was part of the mail route, or even like Cobb and Co. It's a well-known horse and carriage mail delivery service that happened back 100 years ago or so, but it's got lots of beautiful architecture there that I really like. So one day I had taken a walk around the township of Braidwood and took many photos of there. So there are going to be other cottages and such that you will see eventually in this collection, so that's why I've just called it Braidwood Cottage number 2. With the lily, I have done some Google searches on the image of this particular flower just to understand if it really is a lily or something like that, and my Google searches of images of this type of flower has led me to believe that it is. And if by chance I have really got myself wrong, I will rename it to the correct name that it needs to be. And what I hadn't realised when I'd taken a picture of this flower is that looks like there's like a grasshopper or a bug in the image, and I hadn't realised until well and truly after I'd taken the photo and was developing it. And this particular picture I think could be beautiful if you have, say, a marbled green fabric, and you could just stitch the stems and the flowers and the buds of the other 2 flowers, and not necessarily stitch the background. If you did choose to stitch the background for this flower, then I definitely recommend doing half stitch or tent stitch for it, and then if you can do the actual flower and the stems and the buds in full crosses, and it could definitely really enhance the image. Another thought would be stitching this particular project on a dark fabric, like a really dark green or a black or something along those lines, and actually just stitch the stems and the buds the actual flower, because that could really make the colours pop. So yeah, each to their own for that one. So we're just going to come back up. And so these three projects are definitely some of the non-full coverage projects. And so I'll start from the left in terms of Flosstube made me do it ... again. So with this particular pattern, it's very much part of the series of the Flosstube made me do it series, and you'll see that I've tried to incorporate the YouTube logo, but this was an intentional decision on my part to actually have the logo looking like this on the pattern. And I guess this is me just being a little bit cheeky as well, of having it like that, and the stars, having the stars as the border above and below the words, where in my headspace, we're all Flosstube stars or YouTube stars, and it doesn't matter how long anyone's been on Flosstube, where it does take an element of courage to share a part of your life with the world, and especially with the nature of social media, that I guess everyone's wanting to engage with people where they can, and be part of some kind of community and feel like they belong. So that's also very much my headspace and my view of Flosstube, where we all have something special to share. And this is the second picture here in this row, Stitching Enabler. This picture or project is also very much part of the Flosstube Made Me Do It series, and I guess this is a little bit of the cheekiness of where I know that I've been enabled by other people on Flosstube, and all of us, if not the majority of us, are stitchers. And this is where I guess it's just a little bit different of saying that we're a stitching enabler. And so with this particular model, it was stitched on, I think, about 25 or 28 count fabric, and I really wanted to add a bit of colour to this project, and so that's part of why I've got the rainbow colours, partly because I really do love the rainbow colours, but I also wanted to try and have a little bit of I guess an inclusion kind of project, and sort of have it as a bit of a tip of the hat, or a nod towards the LGBTIQ. I really hope I've got this acronym right. I'm very much an advocate for the group, and I'm still learning a lot. So I definitely want to try and help with inclusion and promoting things where I can for including people, like not just the people who identify as being gay or straight or non-binary or anywhere in between, because it is such a broad group that that's part of why I've chosen the colours for the love heart, the rainbow love hearts. But also you might see that I've tried to have a bit of thread coming off the letter L and I guess the letter E, and that's meant to be, I guess, a needle that we're seeing at the end of the letter R, to incorporate a little bit of the stitching. And the three icons here are the spools that we get some of our thread off. So all of that is using DMC thread, and again with the the black lettering, if you have any specialty threads, over dyed threads that you want to use instead of black, or instead of any of the other colours you see on the pattern that you really want to have pop and really stand out, definitely go for it. I haven't included a conversion chart for that, but I definitely encourage anyone who wants to enhance any of the projects that we're seeing so far, any of the patterns, go for it. And I would love to see how you go about that as well. I'd love to see your progress on any of these projects as well, because yeah, I know I adjust other people's patterns from time to time, partly because I might not always have threads that are called for in the pattern, but it also might be me wanting to use some of my specialty threads that I've purchased over time, and so I'll enhance things a bit, or I might want certain things to pop out, so I might use, say, some metallic threads or something, and in my headspace I think that enhances it, and I think that sort of adds my own little bit of creativity to those patterns as well. So yeah, that's a little bit more of a backstory about Stitching Enabler and why to me it's so special, and I hope that you enjoy it as well if that's the kind of pattern you want to stitch on. So with the wattle biscornu that we see on the end here, the wattle biscornu is very much my own design, and in Australia the wattle is our national emblem, and there are a few varieties of the wattle, but it tends to flower from, I guess it's one of the first flowers that starts coming out very early spring, if not sort of just the end of winter, and that for many of us is a hint to say, okay, spring's very much on its way. And actually I want to click in to here just to share with you the additional I guess additional untie the tongue, the additional views that go with this pattern, or this biscornu, to show how it looks and how it's been designed. So I wanted to pay homage to the wattle, and it's taken me a while to figure out a way that can make it work, and I have just loved the way that this has turned out. And with a lot of biscornus, they're designed to have like a button or something similar to that is actually quite suited to the size of the one that you're making, just to help create the dent in the center. And I didn't have any buttons in my collection when I was stitching this, so what I've actually done is, with a brown thread that's part of charted in this particular biscornu, is I've anchored the thread at one end of one side of the biscornu and just brought it up through the center and pulled it tight enough to start creating the center, or the dip in the middle, and just repeated the back and forth motion to help create the dip and secure it, and it's turned out really well. Again, with biscornus, the beautiful thing about them is that you can add your own flair to it and enhance it. And with this particular biscornu, it's actually quite tiny, the final design, or the finished product. So if you didn't want to actually make it as a biscornu, you could actually have it as a flatter finish, and you could actually still polyfill it, or use some kind of filling that you have available to you, and you could actually have it as a scissor fob, or you could Yeah, scissor fob is definitely the first thing that comes to mind for this book. Use your own creativity for this one as well if you don't want to finish it um, as that. You could also add beads to the edge of it as well. So where we see, I appreciate this is a bit blurry, but where we see the dark brown backstitch, that's where you could even add some beads as well and really bling it up and make it really pretty and special. So yeah, absolutely do what you like with the finishing of this. It's something that's pretty cool, and as you can see also with the description here, I also do have a tutorial that I'm working on for its finish, and if you do choose to purchase this pattern, I do have instructions with the pattern for how you can finish it as well, and some tips and tricks for stitching it. Okay, so these three patterns are the most recent patterns that have been uploaded to the site, and these three are actually not all three. The last two are definitely full coverage, but St. Mary's Church Ruins, it's a almost monochrome or a very grayscale pattern, and it looks like it could be a full coverage, but the aim here is that you don't actually stitch the sky. My main focus for this one is the ruins of the church. So the background with this, I'll go into it just a little bit more. Okay, so this is the larger image for this, and I need to include a description a bit more. Here we are. So this is actually a fairly large pattern, but the thing that really makes this large is that it's the width of the project, because I wanted to include as much detail as I could with this particular building. I do want to note before I talk too much more about this pattern that I'm not affiliated with any particular religion. I do have my own beliefs, but what I love about this particular chart and this particular image is I have a fascination with history and with old buildings, and in this particular case, what has captured my attention with this particular church is my curiosity about the background history or the background story of this building. And for some buildings, they have this grand history and grand reasoning for why they are now, and so in other circumstances there are some sad stories behind them. Other stories is that they've changed hands and they have a colourful history. So with this particular church, I, over the years, as part of travelling between Canberra and Sydney, either by car or by bus, have travelled past this old church multiple times, and this church is located about an hour north of Canberra. It's very close to a township called Goulburn, and in Australia, in New South Wales, Goulburn is known to being, I think it's the largest inland city or township, and Goulburn itself has got quite a lot of history that I won't go into right now. If you are curious about Goulburn, definitely do a Google search and you'll find out a lot about it. And this particular church, St. Mary's Church Ruins, it was part of, or built because of a township being along the train lines that would travel between Sydney and Melbourne, and I guess a little bit through Canberra as well. And so, yeah, I guess typical of many little townships that don't exist in Australia anymore. Many towns lived and died by the train lines, and in this particular case, the little township called Yarra, it died because died quite not significantly, but it's not a known township that people intentionally go and visit or drive through because I guess technology happened in the industrial revolution, so to speak, happened where there was no longer a strong reliance upon trains to deliver stock and business to these townships. So this particular church, it did actually function for a very long time, and I think it was a fire or something had come through and the church burnt, so that's why it looks like it is now, and it never got rebuilt or fixed up to continue to function as a church. And I guess Goulburn grew and it became easier for people to potentially travel over to Goulburn, or that people moved away, all those different scenarios. So that's where I just am fascinated by this particular building. And yeah, if you are curious, you can scroll down. We do have I do have a little bit of a background history here, and yeah, definitely check out the project if you are interested, and don't be put off by the stitch count. When I was creating it to try and get the detail in, I have put in the numbers of 50 count fabric, but it can be stitched 2 over 2, say 2 threads over 2 squares to still create the same effect. Okay, so the next pattern is the Snowy Mountain Daisies, and as you'll see, I may not be strong on knowing the names of flowers and in many of the details that are connected with them, but I do appreciate the flowers a bit, and even though they make me sneeze. So here in Canberra and Australia, we are moving into the season of spring. We're actually about halfway through the season, and I suffer from hay fever, and especially the pollens and especially the dry grasses. So I may sneeze a little bit during the season, but it really picks up for me as things dry off. But this is where the Snow Mountain Daisies, I saw quite a lot of them when I went down to the Snowy Mountains. It's in New South Wales, and roughly a 2-hour drive south of Canberra. And the Snowy Mountains is, I guess, the snowfields for many New South Wales people. We've got the likes of Thredbo and Perisher. They're the 2 main snowfields or ski fields that come to mind, and they're quite close to some of the Victorian snowfields as well. It's quite close to that region, and with the snowfields in New South Wales, Mount Kosciuszko is part of those snowfields as well. And Mount Kosciuszko, by memory, is, I think, the tallest mountain in Australia. And when I travelled to Thredbo a few years ago now for my boyfriend's birthday, I think it might have been for his 40th or so, we actually went for walks around there, and we didn't get to do a guided tour, but the guided tours are available for Mount Kosciuszko, and you can walk right up to the peak of the mountain, and even in November there was still snow on the caps of the mountain ranges, and that, yeah, it was just spectacular. It was breathtaking. And November in Australia is one of the months that do start warming up quite a lot for us, and as it's right close to December, which is, I guess, officially the start of summer that month. And that said, November still has been known to deliver us some weather that means it might be freezing cold and snowing, and it occasionally happens. And it's just Mother Nature's way of reminding us that she controls us rather than us humans trying to control her. And I just really love the flowers that were part of us walking around around Thredbo, because the other important thing with Thredbo as well is that it's got quite a lot of mountain biking trails that people can ride around on and have a lot of fun. So hopefully I can go back again and take a lot more photos, and you'll actually hopefully see over time some more patterns that are connected to the daisies and the snowy mountains and such. So the very last pattern that I want to share with you is actually my first international picture. So Lake Rotorua in New Zealand, it's part of the North Island, getting closer to it's almost the midway, if not southern point or southern area, of New Zealand. And it was taken as part of I guess the first international holiday that I had with my boyfriend, and we actually got to stay a couple of days, or stay overnight in Rotorua, and the lake is just beautiful. I took so many photos around Lake Rotorua because they've got some really well built and beautiful walking paths that go along the shore, and hopefully I can share with you a few more photos, a few more patterns that I can create out of the images that I've taken. And yeah, I just absolutely love Rotorua. For tourists who go to Rotorua, and I guess even the people living in New Zealand are aware that initially the smell when you get out of your vehicle or you step off the bus, or however it is that you arrive at Rotorua, you do notice the significant smell that is there. It's a lot to do with I think the tectonic plates that New Zealand is formed on, and it's quite close to, I guess, the sulfur that comes out from the ground through the vents and everything that actually gives Rotorua the smell that it has. And we actually got used to it very quickly, and I think what helped a lot was that some rain showers had come through as well, and it sort of dampened things down. But even then, the smell definitely was nothing to be worried about at all. And I really cannot speak highly enough of Rotorua, let alone New Zealand in a broader sense. I absolutely love the country, and we did actually do our own driving tour of the South Island a couple of years after this trip, and I'll hopefully be able to share with you some more patterns from that as well. But I've rambled on enough. I just wanted to say thank you very much for letting me share a bit of this website with you and the patterns that I have available at the moment. And if you are considering a full coverage project, hopefully you see something here that you like. And if you're a bit concerned about any aspects of the full coverage patterns, definitely reach out to me if you want, and I can provide you with some moral support or whatever it is that or whatever it is that you've got questions about, or anything along those lines. Or if you just want to try and try something a little bit smaller, as you can see, I've got something a little bit different here of stitching some smaller projects. So yeah, just wanted to say thank you, and I'll hopefully catch up with you all sometime soon. See ya.